translation one more time, and then we'll read Srila Prabhupada's purport. This gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the absolute truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material time is experienced. Purport. Anything, either material or spiritual, is but an emanation of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 13:13, the omnipotent Lord has transcendental eyes, heads, and other bodily parts distributed everywhere. By the way, before I go on, I looked up 13:13, and I think there might be some sort of an error here. I could be wrong, but I think actually it should be 13:14. 13:13 is, I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, is beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So that's 13:13. Krishna talking about what is knowable and the knower, both the super soul and the spirit soul. And then the next verse, which I think is actually what's being referred to here, is 14 is, everywhere are his, capital H, are his hands, legs, eyes, heads, and faces, and his ears everywhere. Or rather, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. So anyway, we'll continue with the purport. He can see, hear, touch, and manifest himself anywhere and everywhere, for he is present everywhere as a super soul of all infinitesimal souls, although he has his particular abode in the absolute world. The relative world is also his phenomenal representation because it has nothing to do with the expansion of his transcendental energy. I should have really highlighted that important sentence. I'm going to just read it one more time for emphasis. The relative world is also his phenomenal representation because it is nothing but an expansion of his transcendental energy. Although he is in his abode, his energy is distributed everywhere, just as the sun is localized as well as expanded everywhere, since the rays of the sun, being non-different from the sun, are accepted as expansions of the sun disk. In the Vishnu Purana 1:22-52, it is said that as fire expands its rays and heat from one place, similarly, this Supreme Spirit, the Personality of Godhead, expands himself by his manifold energy everywhere and anywhere. The phenomenal manifestation of the gigantic universe is only a part of his Virata body. Less intelligent men cannot conceive of the transcendental, all-spiritual form of the Lord, but they are astonished by his different energies, just as the Aborigines are struck with wonder by the manifestation of lightning, a gigantic mountain, or a hugely expanded banyan tree. The Aborigines praise the strength of the tiger and the elephant because of their superior energy and strength. The Asuras cannot recognize the existence of the Lord, although there are vivid descriptions of the Lord in the revealed scriptures, although the Lord incarnates and exhibits his uncommon strength and energy, and although he is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by learned scholars and saints like Vyasadeva, Narada, Asita, and Devala, and in the past, and by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, and also by acharyas like Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, and Lord Sri Chaitanya in the modern age. The Asuras do not accept any evidential proof from the revealed scriptures, nor do they recognize the authority of the great acharyas. They want to see with their own eyes at once. Therefore, they conceive the gigantic body of the Lord as Virat, which will answer their challenge. And since they are accustomed to paying homage to superior material strength, like that of the tiger, elephant, and lightning, they can offer respect to the Virata Rupa. Lord Krishna, by the request of Arjuna, exhibited his Virata Rupa for the Asuras. A pure devotee of the Lord, being unaccustomed to looking into such a mundane, gigantic form of the Lord, requires special vision for the purpose. The Lord therefore favored Arjuna with special vision by looking into his Virata Rupa, which is described in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This Virata Rupa of the Lord was especially manifested not for the benefit of Arjuna, but for that unintelligent class of men who accept anyone and everyone as an incarnation of the Lord, and so mislead the general mass of people. Just one second. Okay. For them, the indication is that one should ask the chief incarnation to exhibit his Virata Rupa and thus be established as an incarnation. The Virata Rupa manifestation of the Lord is simultaneously a challenge to the atheists and a favor to the Asuras, who can think of the Lord as Virata and thus gradually cleanse the dirty things from their hearts in order to become qualified to actually see the transcendental form of the Lord in the near future. This is a favor of the all-merciful Lord to the atheists and the gross materialists. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vishesha Tasya Heto Yang Stavishtascha Staviyasam Yatredam Vyajate Vishvam Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavachcha Sat. The gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the absolute truth, wherein the universal resultant, past, present, and future of material time is experienced. So, in studying this verse, we should ask two questions, which I hope will be the sum and substance of my talk on this verse. Two questions are: what is the purpose of discussing the Virata Rupa for the devotees? And what is the Virata Rupa? What is the universal form? So, for the second question, what is the universal form? This is described in this verse as Vishesh Tasya Dehoyam. That Vishesha means, sometimes referred to as a dress or form or the qualities of the personality of Godhead, Vishesha. So Vishesha Tasya Heto. This universal form is one of his bodies. And it's referred to as his personal body here. So the absolute truth is referred to sometimes as immanent. In other words, he's omnipotent, he's omnipresent. Philosophically, we can say he's omnipresent. He's present everywhere. In other words, as we've been talking about the pantheistic view, either God is the universe or he's present within the universe. He can be perceived in the universe or as the universe. So that's his eminence. And in transcendence, that which is beyond the range of the senses, beyond the phenomenal world of sense perception, So there's these two schools of philosophy. God is immanent or transcendent. Which is he? But as we learn from the Bhagavad Gita, he is both immanent and transcendent at the same time. In the prayers of Queen Kunti, Krishna is described by Mother Kunti as Maya Javani Kachanam Agyadadhoksajam Avyayam. Avyayam being irreproachable. In other words, completely pure, free of all contamination of anything in this material world. But she says, Maya Javani Kachanam, it's just like a curtain that's keeping him from us. Although he's present everywhere, everything comes from him. There is nothing but the Lord, but because of the curtain of diluting energy, we can't see him. He is adhoksajam, beyond our sense perception. How can we perceive the transcendence if we have materially limited senses? It's not possible. Sorry, Prabhus, I have to take care of some housekeeping. Oh, that's okay. I have to get back to them later. So, the personality of Godhead is described in this verse as, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, that the phenomenal manifestation of the gigantic universal form is only a part of his virata body. So what we can perceive in this material world, if we have the vision of, let's say, pantheism, this also is Krishna's body, this material world, a gigantic manifestation, but it's only part of his supreme manifestation. And that the devotees, they're not particularly interested. They have to have special eyes that are awarded by the Lord in order to see the Virata Rupa in its entirety. So it is described that the Virata is considered to be the personal body of the Lord because it is his energy. It's just like if we have our own personal money. There's money in the bank, maybe millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, but we have our own personal account that we own and control. So therefore, it is our personal money. Now, are we money? No, we're separate from the money, but it's our money, therefore, it's our energy. So as our personal money. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he says, Bhoktarang Jagatapasang Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the Lord of the cosmic manifestation. So because this is his energy, it can be seen or it can be known as being, in a sense, his personal body because it's his personal energy. In the purport, I didn't list the source here, but anyway, Srila Prabhupada says later on in the Bhagavatam, a person highly elevated in spiritual knowledge knows that nothing exists but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9:4, where Lord Krishna says, Maya tatam idam sarvam. So, idam, the same word that's given in this verse. Idam, this phenomenal world. Maya tatam idam sarvam. That there's nothing in this world that is not me. This is my manifestation, indicating that everything that we see is an expansion of his energy. And this is confirmed in the Vishnu Purana 1:22-52, which Srila Prabhupada refers to in the purport of this verse. Ekadesha stitas yagnir, so Agni, just as Agni is situated in one place, Ekadesha stita sagnir, Jyotishna, so it situated in one place, it illuminates, Vishtarani Yata, just as fire situated in one place emanates its heat and its light, its energy everywhere. Parasha Brahmana Shakti, Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the diffusion of his energies, his multifarious energies, tatedam, so thus idam, tatedam akilam jagat. He manifests himself in this world. As a fire, although existing in one place, can expand its light and heat everywhere, so the omnipotent Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although situated in his spiritual abode, expands himself everywhere in both the material and spiritual worlds by his various energies. Since both cause and effect are the Supreme Lord, there is no difference between the cause and the effect. So this is very important. It's just like if we see something like a watch, we automatically assume that within the effect, the watch, there is a cause, the watchmaker. So when Srila Prabhupada says that the phenomenal manifestation of the gigantic universe is only a part of his Virata body, there is something beyond what we can see in this world. And even what we can see in this world is very, very limited. Vidagda Prabhu mentioned yesterday that when astronomers put their microscope at a black hole and looked at it, I kept it focused for so many weeks or whatever it was, I forget how many days or weeks it was, then they found it was filled with billions and millions of galaxies. So there is this material world is beyond our perception. There's very little of it that we can actually gain with our senses because our senses are so limited. So what to speak of what's beyond this material world? But yet we can understand by simple layman logic that any child can understand that within the cause, within the effect, we can understand that there must be a cause. Srila Prabhupada many times would make this argument that this material nature is like our mother. We are its children. We are maintained by the mother. We get our body from the mother. So if there's the mother and there are the children, then there must be a father. There must be a cause. That cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what we are seeing are the absolute truth. So what we are seeing this gigantic cosmic manifestation, the Virata body, is not everything, but at least it's perceivable. So when answering this first question, what is the Virata? It is the energy of the Absolute, which is phenomenal, which is perceivable or imminent. So then going on in the verse, it says, Stavishta cha stavishyam, so all matter, all the gross matter, yata idam, and this phenomenal word, vrajete, which we experience, visham bhutam bhavam bhavat. So we have matter or space, and then we have time, past, present, and future. So the universal form is everything which is encompassed within time and space, immediately experiencing all at once in its entirety. So we know from grade school, high school, or we were introduced, I'm talking about me personally, introduced to the theory of relativity. Einstein, he worked at the patent office in his young days because there was the introduction of faster and faster modes of travel, specifically train travel, and when people would arrive at a destination, their clocks wouldn't match with where they left their destination. So they're trying to figure out, the train industry was trying to figure out how they were going to synchronize time around the world because of the introduction of trains that could travel faster. That was not a problem before because no one really noticed. The passage of time was different according to your how fast you get to a location. So Einstein worked in a patent office in his younger years, and he started thinking about time, and he figured out that time is actually relative. According to the speed you travel, time will either slow down or speed up. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody is pretty much familiar with this. So the example is given that if you took off in a spaceship going at the speed of time on the other side of the universe, and then you arrive on the other side of the universe after so many years, because you're traveling very, very fast, when you get to your destination, it will have seemed that time was slow for the people in when you arrive, whereas for you, time moved much slower. For them, it was moving fast. So they would be very, very old, and you would be very, very young. So I'm going through this for a specific reason. There's an atomic clock. You know, they divide these more and more precise clocks. There's some sort of an atom. I forget what type of atom it is, but there's a particular substance in its atomic form. It vibrates at a certain frequency, so many thousands or hundreds of thousands of times per second, and then they calculate those vibrations. And so that's what an atomic clock is. So they put an atomic clock on an airplane, and they flew around the world, and then they through this experiment, they found that time actually was slightly slower on the airplane that traveled around the world than it was for the one that was stationary. So from that, they proved the mathematical constructs that were introduced by Einstein, that actually time is relative to your motion. So from that, in physics, they postulate that if you can go fast enough, you can go into the future or you can go into the past. So therefore they say, according to physics, that both time and space is relative, that actually there's no past, present, and future. It's not linear, but rather it's only our perception that makes time look like it's linear. But if you could figure out how to make a machine that could move past the speed of light, then you could enter into the past and into the future. That is the theory to my understanding, of the theory of relativity. So even amongst the physicists, there is such a concept. When the virata is described here, the virata rupa, that when the vision is given to the devotee, that he can see the virata, he can see all space and time in one moment, in one place, that corresponds somewhat with the modern theory of relativity. That's why I brought that up. You know, you can present that maybe not the way I stumbled through it, but you know, at least we can get kind of the idea of it. So the virata then is everything within this phenomenal world, all time and all space experienced at once. So that is what it is. So then we need to understand why it's important for the devotee to understand the virata rupa and be able to explain it to others. Maybe not in the clumsy way that I just did, but at least if we can have a concept of it. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purports 2 important points: that the virata is the grace of the Lord for the atheists, because they do not accept the incarnations of the Lord. When the Lord comes and he exhibits extraordinary power that no human being, no other living being can imitate, they don't accept it. The Asuras do not accept the version that is given in the scriptures, the descriptions of the Lord that are given there, nor do they accept all the acharyas, which are listed in this purport throughout the ages. So they want to see everything with their own eyes at once. Prove to me that there is God. Show me God now. Otherwise, if you can't, he doesn't exist, because they accept everything by sense perception, by empiricism. You prove it to me just like science proves everything. You can show it to anybody. It's democratic. So, as I said, I wanted to show a few slides in my lecture here. So what I'm going to do, if you just bear with me here, I'm going to unmute myself. Rather, I'm going to unmute all of you, excuse me. So I've unmuted all of you. So now you have the ability to unmute yourself. I'm going to plug in my headset. Okay, just plugged in my headset. Can somebody confirm that you can hear me all right?
I hear you fine.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, now I'm going to change my screen over. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to get this set up. Select 1, 2. Okay, that should work. Now, does everybody see a slide which says Prajaksha, Raman?
I see a mind and manas and eyes, ears, nose. Yep.
All right,
yeah,
so
yeah,
for everybody that's...
I had to scroll down to see the Prajaksha.
Okay. You know what? Something just happened on Skype. I have to... Looks like they dropped. Just 1 second. I have to get them set up. One moment. Maharani, I'm sorry we dropped you. It looks like we dropped some other people on Skype. I didn't notice that it had dropped before. All right, so for everybody else who's looking on Start Meeting, if you can look at your screen here, what I have is 6 slides, and I wanted to establish here how limited our sense perception is. Because the point Srila Prabhupada is making here, a very good point, is that the Asuras, they do not accept the authority of the scriptures when the Lord comes himself, or the authority of the acharyas. They only trust their limited sense perception, and they want to see God now. That's the challenge. So, we have here different types of evidence. Evidence is referred to in Sanskrit as praman. So the first praman is called pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means only accepting what we can see in front of our eyes. We have different senses that we perceive this world. The eyes perceive light, ears perceive sound, nose perceives smell, the tongue perceives taste, and touch perceives objects. So that's all grouped around the mind, manas. So the brain is like the hardware, and you could say manas is the software, I suppose. That's an analogy. So that's how we perceive the world. That's the only way a conditioned soul can understand what is around him. That is the door of perception. So atheists, just like Charvaka Muni, who was living thousands of years ago, his method of understanding the world was simply relying on projection, what we can see directly in front of us. And atheists like Charva would ask, show me God immediately to prove that there is God. But our senses are very, very limited. Just like you can look up in the sky, and you can see the moon or the sun, and we know that they are gigantic, much larger than the Earth. However, it looks like a small little disk. So sense perception looks like it's very small, but actually it's very large. If you take a stick, you put it in the water, through refraction, it looks like it's bent where it touches the water. It's an optical illusion. Or if you have like a convex or a concave mirror, when you look at it, it distorts our image. So when they say seeing is believing, well, our senses are limited. They always are limited according to what our perception is. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. Now, this is group discussion. If you could all look at this, I want you to tell me how many parallel lines are here. And just take a guess or count. How many parallel lines are there? Anybody?
I'm counting. About 16 or something?
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I meant 16. Okay.
Well, that's at a quick count, but I can do it more slowly. Let me go back to that.
How many are not parallel? How's that?
Oh, it has to be perfectly parallel? You mean perfectly parallel doesn't have to be straight.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they have to be straight in line with each other.
Well, like if a train curves, goes around a curve, they're still parallel, although the parallel lines are not straight. They're still parallel.
Okay.
So if the train, but anyway.
Anybody else? Anyone? Any guesses? Or you see anything that's how many that are not parallel?
I maybe guess some of these I counted weren't strictly parallel, so I didn't know how technical you were getting on how perfectly parallel
this is an optical illusion for anybody who's looking at this. There's actually, all of these are parallel lines. Even though they look like they're bent, because the eye follows, makes you follow the lines, it looks like some of them are bent, but actually none of them are bent. They're all parallel.
How is that?
Oh, I see it now. Yeah, that's right. Ramananda explained that. That's pretty cool.
I mean, I don't see. How did they do that?
That's an optical illusion.
How does Maya do what Maya? How does Maya do what she does?
Here's another one. How many?
It's good.
How many legs does the elephant have? Anybody?
I'm counting.
5.
5. Okay. Anybody else?
I mean, that's the completed toes.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I agree with Vidagda. Vidagda and I say 5.
Anybody else?
I mean, obviously, it's not going to be 5, so we're interested. 1, 2, 3. Yep, I still get 5. But I know it's not going to be 5 because you're expecting us to say 5, but no, what is it?
Okay. Well, actually, it's all subjective. You know, some people see 4, some people see 5, some people 6, 7. But how can that be? It's all according to our perception. Okay, here's the last one. How many loops does the spiral have? You don't have to count all of them. It's too many. Just guess. Anybody?
About 16-ish.
12.
12. Anybody else? Anybody else looking at this?
Mother Anu put put down 12.
All right. The fact is, there's no spiral at all. These are all concentric circles.
Well, that's semantics.
No, actually, if you follow it, they're actually concentric circles.
Yeah. Okay. You got me there. You just said it's funny.
So anyway, here's a couple of examples about how our eyes plays tricks on us. And people perceive things differently. If we have more group participation, I would imagine would have got much bigger range of guesses. But the point is that our senses, our eyes specifically, pratyaksha, can be illusion. We can't see distant objects. You can't see objects that are too far away or too close. Just like we can't see our own eyelids, and we can't see what's beyond the wall in front of us. Even though we're very, very proud of what we can perceive, our eyes are made of, flesh and blood and water, all the constituents. How in the world can we see the absolute truth with things that are made of material elements? Well, we can't even see what's in this world properly. Just like our ears have a very limited range. If you blow like a dog whistle, other animals can hear it very clearly, but we can't hear it because our senses are limited. So we have pratyaksha and anuman, and then shabda. These are the way that we can understand what is real knowledge. Let's go to the next slide. Anuman, Praman, or the evidence from Anuman, it would be the next step. So we have our senses, and then from gathering information of our senses, we have inference. It's just like we can, within one event, we can see another event. The example is given just like if you see smoke on a hill, you infer that there's a fire on the other side, even though you don't see it, because you have experience in the past. Therefore, you infer that there must be fire. But you can also be illusion. It might be another cause. So, probably the best example is just like Darwin inferred, thinking about what is the origin of life. He came up with wild speculations about how man evolved from apes. And even, although I have not read, but I've heard, Sadhaputta and others, that said that in the origin of species, Darwin himself admitted that he was basing all this on conjecture and wild speculation. So our senses are very limited. So how we will understand that which is transcendent? So that is given in this verse. I'll just take this away. I'll take the slides away, since we're done with those. So Srila Prabhupada is making the point that the atheists, they want to see everything immediately. They want proof now. So they challenge, just like the Aborigines. The Aborigines, they see superior things, like the power of an elephant or a tiger. They respect it. So similarly, the scientists, they will not accept the personality of Godhead, but they accept this phenomenal material world. They respect that, just like the Aborigines accept, a storm or some powerful happening in nature. So therefore, the atheists, they can respect the Virata Rupa, and therefore they can purify their senses. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada said that the Virata manifestation of the Lord is simultaneously a challenge to the atheists and a favor to the asuras. So if a person, which I've come up in this situation before myself, somebody will say that they are an incarnation of God, Mayavadi, and then you just challenge them. You say, show me your universal form, and they cannot. So therefore, you immediately, stump them. So both, it answers this challenge to the atheists and also favors the asuras, because at least that they can appreciate Krishna's universal form. Then they can gradually make some advancement towards eventually understanding his real form, his transcendental form, beyond this material world. All right, so that was a few thoughts I had about this verse. I've already unmuted everybody. If anyone has any questions or comments, then please go ahead.
Ramananda, I had a lot of questions, I guess.
You know what?
First
I'm
of all,
going to have to pull out my headset. Just 1 second. For some reason, I couldn't hear. Go ahead. What did you say?
Oh, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I love those little slides that you showed. That was very helpful. The one I guess I related to most was the one that was really clear was the parallel lines. That's amazing. They really did not look parallel, and that's great. I may want to use that for my my next university class. That was powerful.
I got
that. A great point. I mean, if we can't even get that, it shows how our senses are imperfect. So that was, rather than just saying that our senses are imperfect, that was very powerful. I want to use that. You have to tell me where that was, so I can print that out. But anyway, so now a couple things that came to my mind that I'm not sure about. One is this idea of time. I mean, do we as Vaishnavas accept the fact that if this idea of the relativity, if one moves, he actually slows down time? It seems that we're able then to control time, and that sounds a little inconsistent. In other words, theoretically, if we could get in a plane that went fast enough and had enough fuel, etc., we could stop time. And therefore, if we stop time, we stop aging, and where Krishna says, that we can't stop time. Time and tide waiting for no man. No one can control time. Ayor harati vaipungsam ujananjachiyan. That the rising and setting of every sun, our life is being taken away because of time. This chakra of time is chasing everyone, and it doesn't seem that we have within our ability anyway to reduce or alter the effects of time. So that was the first thing that kind of rubbed me a little off. Maybe we have some discussion on that, because it doesn't sound right to me. But I'm open-minded, so it didn't sound right.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts? Or if Doug, anybody wants to throw something in, I'd be interested to hear other thoughts on that. It just doesn't sound right.
Me bringing it up in my own clumsy way is not agreeing at all. I'm not, theories come and go all the time. I just heard on the NPR 2 or 3 months ago that one of the main theories about string theory was defeated, and now it puts in a whole other perspective. So who knows how long these theories are going to last?
All right, I feel better now. Okay, all right. So you were just presenting that as devil's advocate, but you didn't buy it either.
No, it's just that if let's say a modern educated person will hear about the Virata Rupa and say that that's a fairy tale, well, what about the modern theory about relativity? So why is that not a fairy tale? There's some parallels there, So if you can accept that just because it comes from modern science and physics, why can't you accept what's being said here? The Virata Rupa is a manifestation of the Lord, and you can experience all time and space at once.
Well, there's a problem with the Virata Rupa as well, and not a problem, but something I want to point out. In my understanding, again, I'm very open to discussion. Someone may, I don't consider myself an expert on anything, especially the Virata Rupa. It seems it's actually defined differently in different places. One is it will refer to the universal form, which say Krishna saw and revealed to others as well. But in Gita, Krishna says that Arjuna had to be given divine eyes by which he could see that universal form. Not that everyone could see the universal form. As that form of the universal form, if you will, that we have to be granted by Krishna the ability to be able to see it. We need divine eyes. Now, we can certainly see the other way in which the Virata Purush is described, and that is, the mountains and the storms and the rivers and the oceans and the sun and the moon and the shark and the taste of water. I mean, we can perceive that aspect of it, but not that universal form that Arjuna saw. And then the problem I have with that, if you say to an atheist, well, show me, if you say you're God, show me your, produce your universal form, that person could say, well, here it is, but you don't have the eyes to see it.
Yeah, I've been in situations like that. That's exactly what they say. They say that you don't have to.
Really?
I said, well, give me the eyes. Go ahead. You prove to me that you're God. Okay, you're saying you're God, so show me your universal form. Give me the eyes.
Yeah.
And I didn't. For me, anyway, that's always worked.
Isn't it also your understanding? Is it your understanding as well that this Virata Purush is really described a couple of different ways, and often the same terms are used? That which we can easily see, anyone can see or has access to, and that is the material world, seeing that as the Virata Rupa, as being a different form of the Virata Rupa which was shown to Arjuna.
Yeah, certainly. But, one thing is that you can read about people that have seen partial manifestations of universal form. Sometimes they're seen as being psychotic. I'm sorry, I was trying to, while you were talking, I'm trying to look up names of famous persons that have seen some sort of aspect of the universal form. At least that's the way it's described. Where they see everything happening at once, and all past, present, and future seem to merge. So they see some sort of an aspect of it. But then again, you got to consider that to see everything at once, obviously people are going to have different perceptions of it.
One of the most famous paintings of or photographs or whatever the universal form was back in the 60s when Jimi Hendrix had that album, and he took Krishna out of the center, and he replaced his picture with Krishna in the center of that universal form, and shortly thereafter he left his body.
Yeah. He had to see Yamaraj for that one. So, I have something to add to this.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Here's Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 3rd chapter, 30th verse. The conception of the Virat, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having a form, but factually the Lord has no material form. Straight up verse.
Is that one that we? I remember that. Is that one that we did not so far back in class, or maybe I made reference when I gave a class? But I remember that. I remember reading that specifically not that long ago.
Right. So in this verse, it's called a personal form, but and the Vedic conception of the universal form. I mean, it's interesting that the form of Vishnu, we just went through that meditation with Sukadev in this chapter, and he's saying you start at the feet, but he made the point not to lose sight of the whole form, or not to lose, the conception of the whole form. So, the universe stacks up lower, middle, upper planetary systems, and the varnas are associated with the different parts of the Lord's body, the sun and the moon are his eyes, so it's interesting, how all that works, but it's, and then you have Krishna saying, I'm the taste of water, I'm the fragrance of the earth, I'm the, I'm this, I'm the Himalayas, I'm this, I'm that, I'm immovable things, I'm the Himalayas. So it is for getting people that are too grossly connected with their senses, get them to appreciate something powerful, something greater than themselves, and something that's part of something, part of the universal form. It's only one part. And so Sukadeva is doing that. And it's for two classes that I see in the purport. It's for the gross materialists, like as mentioned previously by Ramananda, and it's also for the impersonalists that were also discussed recently, that want to make everybody a cheap incarnation. So the idea is there's only one person who's actually created this universe, and he can arrange it to be seen all at once, as he did for Arjuna, But it's not for us to be that, we can't do that. It's not within our power. And these guys that say, well, you don't have the eyes to see my universe, these people are so entrenched in cheating. We have been advised to stay far away from these people. These people are not candidates for preaching. They're just total, as Prabhupada would say, rascals.
Yeah, it's true. I've been at like the Sunday feast, and I've done that. The Mayavadi, and just devastates them. At least you stop them in their tracks. They can't speak nonsense anymore.
Right, and they come back.
Call their bluff.
Yeah, if they come back with, well, you don't have the eyes. Well, of course. Anyway, if you had that power, you could also give me the eyes. So anyway, there's the door. There's no need for you to be here.
There's no sense preaching to people that, just like with that saying, you can wake up a person that's sleeping, but you can't wake up a person who's pretending to be asleep.
Right.
So someone who's actually sleeping innocently, they're a candidate, but someone who's pretending, and well, I guess their only qualification as a candidate is if they have a mouth and you can somehow put up a core or a sweet ball in it.
Yeah. Anyway, the Madhyams avoid such people. People that are inimical, they avoid them.
I wanted to comment on that verse that you just cited, that the universal form of the Lord is imaginary, meant for the less intelligent, so they can have some sort of conception of the Lord. The form of the Lord is eternal. This phenomenal world, it has manifestations that come into being, that stay for some time and then dissolve. So nothing in this material world lasts forever, so the concepts that we have are illusory because they're not eternal. They're always changing. So if we're perceiving the Virat, it's imaginary in this sense, because I hope I can relate this idea. It's just like at the beginning of the 19th century, there was the introduction of television. Before that, there was radio, and there used to be broadcasts of the Lone Ranger. When the Lone Ranger came to television, people commented that they could imagine the Lone Ranger much better by hearing about him on radio rather than seeing him on TV. So you can put a concept within a person's mind by describing it. You can make an image within his mind. So what I understand when it's described there in the Bhagavatam that the universal form is imaginary is that usually our living entity cannot perceive, past, present, and future, everything within the time and space all at once. But he's given the special vision by the Lord in order to experience that. So although this material world is just the energy of the Lord, and whatever we perceive in it is temporary and therefore, in that sense, illusory, it's not eternal. Even though in that sense it's imaginary, still it's an energy of the Lord, and it's a way to perceive Him.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. This is part of the purport of the verse I just quoted. The material conception of the Lord is not counted in the list of His factual form. As Paramatma or Supersoul, the Lord is within each and every material form, even within the atoms. But the outward material form is but an imagination, both for the Lord and the living being. The present forms of the conditioned souls are also not factual. The conclusion is that the material conception of the body of the Lord as Virat Rupa is imaginary. Both the Lord and the living being are living spirits and have original spiritual bodies. So all the incarnations are spiritual forms. So, Krishna arranged for Arjuna to see this. Partly, it was, to show him what was about to take place, that he had the power over everything that was going on. Time, I am, destroyer of the worlds. I've decided everyone here dies, except for a handful. That's my decision. And he fills the sky with a form that's just so fierce that Arjuna's knees start buckling. He's shaking. They think that these warriors are like so powerful and they can't be defeated. And then suddenly you're seeing the sky filled with a form that could just crush everyone at the moment. So it's but the material energy is the separated energy, and it's simultaneously one and different. So that it's an inconceivably so, meaning, as you mentioned earlier, everything, in one sense, is God. Everything is coming from Him. But He's also declaring in the Bhagavad Gita that He's not everything. So, it's a little tricky, but material forms are just a reflection of the spiritual forms.
My understanding of that is that like the form, like one example is where we use the material nature by thinking of the clouds as being the eyebrows of the Lord, and the sun and moon as being His eyes, and the mountains as being the bones, the ocean as being the waist, sometimes the trees or hairs of the head. Yeah, that's clearly kind of imaginary. It's definitely not an incarnation, but because it's an authorized way to begin the process, and if we describe it in that way, which I've done and I'm sure others of us has, to someone that's far adrift and not ready to hear so much about Radha Krishna, but if we do it in that authorized way, then again, because it's bona fide, it softens the heart. It's Shabda Brahma. It's a spiritual meditation, and it's real and it's transcendental, and people will make spiritual advancement, and then they'll eventually be ready to understand Krishna in a more real form. But what is real about that, it is authorized. It's an authorized way to meditate. Even though it's not really the Lord, it's really authorized. So in that sense, it's real. Though the form, in a sense, is imaginary. So anyway, I don't know if that confused things or helped, but that's how I see it.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Good class. A lot of good stuff.
All right. So if nobody has anything else, we can end here. All right.
Thank you, Ramananda, and thank you, Vidagda.
Thank you. Sorry if I muted anybody who was background noise. All right, so all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Guru Prabhupada. See everybody back here tomorrow.
Ki Jai. Haribol.